A very good morning to all of you. Today we are going to discuss about the effects of global climate change. Yesterday we have discussed different phenomena or different aspects of global climate change and how we can deal with such kind of global climate changes. So for that, yesterday as I have discussed that there are two ways to attempt to manage the climate change. First, we should work on the mitigation and the adaptation. By applying these two processes, by applying these two steps, we can easily manage the effects of climate change on human health as well as on any kind of living organisms on the earth surface. So I am going to start with the next slide, that is how we can start with the mitigation and what is the global climate change relationship between the mitigation and adaptation. Means when we are, suppose in case of climate change scenario, how we are going to mitigate and how we can adopt different solutions for that. So in case of less mitigation, means we are producing more greenhouse gases, and if we are getting more greenhouse gases, so definitely there will be serious impact on the climate change, and there will be the greater impact on the human and the natural environment. So for that we need to acquire, or we need to apply more adaptation strategies, more adaptation processes. So there are two terms, less mitigation and more mitigation. If we start with the less mitigation, mitigation means we should focus on the limiting the greenhouse gas emission. We should restrict the use of greenhouse gas emission, or you can say we can work on the reduction of the sources which are responsible for the greenhouse gases. So we should start with the mitigation. If we control the emission of greenhouse gases, if we control the different sources who are producing the greenhouse gases, so definitely we can have the less amount of greenhouse gases, and it will have lesser amount of on the, it will have less effect on the climate change. So less mitigation means we are not having much more limitation on the greenhouse gases. We are not restricting the greenhouse gases, so that is less mitigation. Means we are not focusing on the emission of greenhouse gases. So if we are having not limitation on the greenhouse gas emission, so there will be the more greenhouse gases that will be produced. And if the greenhouse gases are produced at a higher level, so definitely it will have very serious impacts on the climate change. And because of this, it can hamper, it can affect the human life and a natural environment on the earth surface. In that case, we need to have more adaptation. Less mitigation means more adaptation, and more mitigation means less adaptation. Suppose we have started with the more mitigation planning. If we are having more mitigation planning, so we can restrict the use of greenhouse gases, we can restrict the emission of greenhouse gases emission. So if we are having less amount of greenhouse gases, so definitely it will have less impact on the climate change. And if it is having less impact on the climate change, so it will not heavier impact on the human and natural environment. So we need to have less amount of the adaptation strategies. So less mitigation means more adaptation, and more mitigation means less adaptation. So this is the way how we can see the relationship between the mitigation and adaptation. Mitigation and adaptation both are important for dealing with the global climate change, but we should know why this mitigation and adaptation are interrelated with each other, and what will be the scenario in case of less mitigation and what will be the scenario in case of more mitigation. So this is very simplest way, and this figure is showing how less mitigation will lead to more adaptation, and more mitigation leads to the less adaptation strategies. So when we are dealing with the global climate change, mitigation is very important. If we mitigate, or if we start mitigating the impacts of climate change, so definitely we can reduce the impacts of the climate change on the human and the natural environment. So for that, we need to locate the alternative fuels to the fossil fuels. We should avoid the use of fossil fuels, and instead of fossil fuels, we should look for some alternative source of the fuels. Okay, we should increase the efficiency of the cars and trucks so that it will not emit much amount of the carbon dioxide or greenhouse gases. We should also work on the sequestering the carbon before it is emitted, and plant and maintain the tree to naturally square the carbon. So these four steps are very important to deal with the global climate change, or you can say these four steps are at the level of mitigation. If we are starting with the mitigation process, so we should first locate the, or we should first focus on the alternative source of the fuels instead of fossil fuels, because fossil fuels releases high amount of greenhouse gases. So we should avoid the use of fossil fuels, and we should go for some alternative source of the fuels. Then we should increase the efficiency of cars and trucks so that it will not release much amount of the greenhouse gases. Carbon sequestration should be done before the emission, and plant and maintain the trees to naturally square the carbon. So how to deal with the global climate change, and in case of adaptation, so in adaptation process, in case of adaptation stage, we should work on the strategies to reduce the uh, less impact of the rising sea level. If the coastal region is having the rising sea level, so we should move the inland, construct the dikes and the leaves so that it will have the less impact on the coastal region. Sea level rise is increasing day by day. There is a rising trend in the sea level. So we should have some walls, we should have some constructions along the coastal regions to avoid the effect of sea level rise on the local population or any kind of human health. And we should adopt to shifting the agricultural zones. Okay, so this is the way how we can deal with the global climate change through the process of adaptation. And before that, we should start with the mitigation process. If we work very effectively at the mitigation level, so there will be very less efforts is required at the adaptation level. So we should always focus on the mitigation first. Okay, ozone depletion is another kind of phenomena that is because of the global climate change. Okay, but ozone layer is also very important for the human life. Ozone layer strongly absorbs the harmful ultraviolet radiation, X-rays coming from the sun. Okay, otherwise our skin would burn by these ultraviolet radiation and X-rays. Okay, ozone layer occurs in the stratospheric zone of the atmosphere, and it can prevent the ultraviolet rays and gamma rays or X-rays coming from the solar radiation or sun through some chemical process. And it is also having some environmental effects, and for that we should also work on the solution in case of ozone depletion. Because of the you can say because of the greenhouse gases, the ozone layer is also affecting. Greenhouse gases are also affecting the ozone layer. If the ozone layer is depleting, or there is a reduction in the ozone layer, or the ozone layer, the thickness of the ozone layer is reduced, so it cannot prevent the ultraviolet rays, it cannot prevent the X-rays coming from the sun. So ozone depletion is a serious issue. We should focus on the conservation or preservation of the ozone layer, because it's very important layer exist in the stratospheric zone of the earth's environment or atmosphere. And it can affect the, it can reduce the effect of the ultraviolet rays and gamma rays on the human health. Okay, so this is the way you see the atmospheric condition of the earth. As we know that atmosphere of the earth is divided into different components, starting from the troposphere, then stratosphere, then ionosphere. So most of the ozone layer exists in the stratosphere. Okay, and it is also known as stratospheric zone. Its altitude is around 20 to 30 kilometer from the earth's surface. Okay, and it's the concentration of ozone in the stratosphere is around 400 ppb. Okay, this is the concentration level of the ozone. So you see in the figure, this figure, the left hand side figure, most of the ozone layer exists in the stratosphere zone at the altitude of 20 to 40 kilometers from the Earth's surface, and the concentration is very high in the uh, stratosphere. It's around 400 ppb. Okay. Otherwise, when you go to the mesosphere, there will be very less concentration of the ozone, and there is also very less concentration in the troposphere. So most of the ozone layer, or most of the ozone gas, you can say, ozone is a kind of gas. So most of the ozone gas exists in the stratosphere. That is a part of our atmosphere. Okay. So ozone works as a shield. Okay, because it absorbs all the ultraviolet radiation, all the harmful gamma rays and x-rays coming from the sun. And it is very important to preserve the ozone layer, because without this we cannot survive on the earth's surface. Our skin would burn by the harmful ultraviolet radiation or harmful x-rays and gamma rays. Okay. So this figure is showing how which wavelength interval, or as we know that solar radiation is a kind of electromagnetic radiation. Sun's energy is a electromagnetic radiation. So some specific wavelength of that electromagnetic radiation is absorbed by the ozone layer. Okay, that is especially, you can say, ultraviolet and x-rays. Ultraviolet and x-rays are most harmful part of the electromagnetic radiation, and these two electromagnetic radiation can be easily absorbed by the ozone layer. So ozone can be work as a shield, and it protects us from the harmful radiation coming from the sun. So how this ozone forms, and what is the process, and what is the chemical reaction behind the production of ozone layer? So as we know that our atmosphere is having abundant of oxygen. Okay. And when this oxygen molecule, or you can say when the solar radiation interacts with the oxygen molecule, that is O2, it will be distributed, or it will be you can say it will be broken into two parts, two oxygen molecules, two molecules. Initially it is having two molecules of oxygen, O2, but when solar radiation interacts with the oxygen molecule, it will divide it into two individual oxygen molecules, and again this individual oxygen molecule interact with another oxygen, and that is O2, and it will form the O3. O3 is a chemical name. O3 is the chemical formula of ozone. Okay. Ozone is having three molecules of the oxygen, whereas normally the oxygen is having two molecules, that is O2. So this is the production process of the ozone, and entire ozone gas is formed through the internal chemical reaction of the oxygen molecule with the oxygen. Single oxygen molecule interacts with the oxygen molecule, and it will produce O3, that is ozone gas. So the production of ozone, O3, in the stratosphere, it always occurs in the stratosphere. That is because of the photo dissociation of the oxygen molecule that yields two atoms of the oxygen. O2 will be decomposed into two individual oxygen molecules, and these individual oxygen molecules again interact with the oxygen molecule and to form the ozone. Okay. So the individual oxygen molecule interact with the oxygen, and that will create the ozone gas, that is O3. So this is the simplest way to understand how there is a production of ozone in the stratosphere. Okay. That is because of the ultraviolet radiation. That is because of the solar radiation coming from the sun. So the measurement of ozone is very important. It can be measured at different part of the earth. Okay. And different part of the earth, when you measure it at from different part of the earth, you will have different concentration level. At some place you will have high concentration level, at some place you will have low concentration level. Okay. So this figure is showing the concentration level of ozone over the Antarctic region, starting from 1980 to 2005. Okay. And you see it is continuously decreasing. The concentration level of oxygen over the Antarctic region is continuously decreasing up to 2005. Initially, it was more than 200 ppm, but right now it is below 140 ppm over the Antarctic region only. Okay, so the survey regarding the measurement of ozone concentration was started in 1957 over the Antarctic region, and it is measured that it is concluded that over the period of time, that is starting from 1980 to 2005, the concentration level is decreased over the Antarctic region. Okay, so because of this, there may be the high melting rate of the glaciers present on the Antarctic region. Ice melting is there because ozone layers is very thin. The concentration level of ozone is decreased, so it cannot prevent much of the electromagnetic radiation or solar radiation coming from the sun. And the atmosphere is having increased temperature that will lead to the melting of the snow and ice over the Antarctic region. Okay. So ozone and CFC, chlorofluorocarbons. Okay, ozone and chlorofluorocarbon. Chlorofluorocarbon is a kind of greenhouse gas. CFC, its full form is chlorofluorocarbon. So the relationship between the ozone layer and chlorofluorocarbon, that is CFC, was studied by Molina and Rowland in 1974. As we know that CFCs are stable compound, it cannot break into different components, but ozone layer is having unstable characteristics. Okay, and CFC is stable, so it can stay at a longer period of time in the atmosphere. And the ultraviolet radiation, when interacts with the CFC and release the chlorine, that chlorine reacts with the O3 and increase the UV at the surface. So this is the process, chemical reaction in the atmosphere. The ozone layer interact with the chlorine and forms the oxygen molecule. Okay, so when CFC in the upper atmosphere of the environment, that is having you can say the stratosphere. However, there is a reaction to occur. Highly energetic ultraviolet radiation splits of the chlorofluorocarbon into the chlorine, and that chlorine will interact with the ozone layer, or you can say the ozone gas, and it will release the chlorine. And when it happens, the following two reactions can take place. These two equations define a chemical cycle that can deplete the ozone in the first reaction. So the because of the chemical composition, because of the chlorofluorocarbon, there is a depletion in the ozone layer, because when this chlorine, the chlorine which is released from the chlorofluorocarbon, interacts with the ozone layer, so it will release the oxygen, but it will affect the concentration of ozone. It will break the ozone into two compounds, that is chlorine is interact with the single oxygen molecule, that it will form ClO, chlorooxide plus oxygen. So this is the way how the ozone layer is degrading, how the concentration of ozone is depleting at the environment. Okay, this is the way how the formation and destruction of ozone in the upper atmosphere, or you can say the stratosphere. The ozone is produced by the photo dissociation of oxygen molecule by the ultraviolet rays coming from the sun, and then or individual oxygen interacts with the oxygen molecule to form the ozone, that is O3. Okay, then again ozone or O3 is destroyed by the catalytic chain reaction of ClO, that is chlorooxide. That is similar reactions occur with the nitrous oxide, and the net result will be the reduction of the ozone layer. Okay, so this is the cyclic process, and this is the way how you can say the ozone layer is destructing, and this is the process of the natural formation of ozone and the destruction of ozone layer by chlorofluorocarbons. Okay, and because of this, most of the part of the earth where there is a high concentration of chlorofluorocarbons, as we know that it is a kind of greenhouse gas. CFC is a kind of greenhouse gas. So when at specific location on the earth surface, there is a high amount of the release of the chlorofluorocarbon. So when it will reach into the atmosphere, it will interact with the oxygen layer and it will degrade the oxygen. It will degrade the ozone layer and forms the oxygen molecule, but it will decompose the O3 molecule into the single oxygen molecule and the oxygen. So these are the major sources of the emission for the chlorofluorocarbon, and this table is showing the emission of some of the chemicals that is associated with the stratospheric ozone depletion in 1989, with the growth rate of CFCs for 1998 and substitutes of the CFCs. So there are different compounds of the CFCs: CFC12, CFC11, CFC11.3, carbon tetrachloride, methyl chloroformone. These are some of the compounds which was produced from the chlorofluorocarbon, and the emission rate is written here in tons, and the lifetime of that chemical compound like CFC12 can remain in the atmosphere up to 139 years. CFC12 or CFC11 can remain in the atmosphere up to 76 years. Means it can stay at in the atmosphere at up to 76 years. So it's you can say the life span or life period of these gases, these greenhouse gases are very high. It can remain up to 100 years. Okay, but some compounds of the chlorofluorocarbon like HCFC 123, it can stay up to 2 years only in the atmosphere. So most of the CFC 12 compound is having higher life period time in the atmosphere. And it can remain up to 139 years in the atmosphere. Okay, so this is the way how you can say which are the major sources of the chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, so you see here the refrigerators is also having the contributing factors in the formation of chlorofluorocarbon. Okay, and in 1974, then 1986 and 1991, most of the right now most of the houses are having refrigerators. Okay, so refrigerators are and AC are they are also releasing a chlorofluorocarbon, that is a greenhouse gas, and because of this there is a depletion in the ozone layer. So you see in the right side figure, this is the depletion zone of the ozone. So this is the region over the Antarctic, and over the Antarctic region, the concentration of ozone is very less. And this data was of the year 2003. Okay, so yeah, in the in the left side figures, you can see you can see different contributing factors which are responsible for the release or which are responsible for the production of chlorofluorocarbon in the million kg. Okay, ozone hole, where at the place on the earth surface where we can have the less concentration of ozone, so it can be considered as the ozone hole. Ozone hole means there is very thin layer of ozone, and at that place that there is a possibility that ultraviolet rays and harmful gamma rays can enter it through the atmosphere and can reach to the earth surface. So the places on the earth where you can find the very thin layer or very less concentration of ozone, that will be considered as the ozone hole. Okay, and the number of ozone holes are increasing day by day. Most part of the earth are having this kind of problem, ozone hole. At some places on the earth surface there is a very less amount concentration of the ozone, and at some places there is a very thin layer of ozone, and during that at that place there is a high amount of the electromagnetic radiation, high amount of the solar radiation can reach to the earth surface through the transportation from the atmosphere, because there is a no because there is no ozone layer. So ultraviolet and gamma rays can easily pass through the atmosphere and can reach to the earth surface. That will be harmful to the human life or maybe any kind of animals living on the earth surface. So this is the concept of ozone hole. Ozone hole means just simply the place on the earth surface where there is a very less concentration of ozone or very thin layer of the ozone. Okay, polar stratospheric clouds. These are a phenomena. This is a kind of phenomena that can occur at the polar regions. It can form in the polar winter season, and it is having polar vortex. And in most of the cases, it is isolated air mass, and it is formed because it is formed with the nitrogen oxide that is held in the clouds at the nitric acid. NO3 particles grow and fall out, and that can facilitate the ozone depletion reaction. Okay, so this is another reason for the reduction in the ozone layer. This is another reason for the depletion of ozone. That is nitrogen oxides. Nitrogen oxides can affect the ozone layer, and can, because of this, there will be the ozone depletion at that place. Polar vortex. This is the concept of polar vortex. You see here, because of the polar vortex, most of the polar stratospheric clouds interacts with the HCl hydrochloride and chlorofluorocarbons, and it interacts with the it will be interacted by the sunlight or solar radiation, or you can say the electromagnetic radiation, and it will be responsible for the you can say the decomposition of ozone into the oxygen molecules. Three molecules of the oxygen, that is O3. O3 is the ozone, and because of this process, O3 will be decomposed into the oxygen molecule, that is O2, and that will deplete the, that is the reason behind the depletion of the ozone layer. And it is the figure. This figure is showing, and most of the region over the Antarctica, most of the region over the Antarctic region is having such kind of processes, that is polar vortex. So that's the region of the less concentration of ozone over the Antarctica and Antarctic region. These are the environmental effects of the ozone layers. Because of the depletion of ozone layer, there are several negative impacts on the environment or the human health. Okay, ultraviolet rays can damage the DNA of the human. It can lead to the skin cancer. Then it can be used, it can be responsible for the suppression of immune system. It can affect the ecosystem on the earth surface, and that will negatively impact the primary producers of the food. It can affect the food chain, and it can affect the development in the aquatic larva. So there are several environmental effects of the depletion in the ozone layer. Okay, and one of the most important effect of the decreasing ozone layer in the atmosphere is on the human health. It can damage the DNA, as well as it can lead to the skin cancer and other kind of problems related to the immune system or immunity of the human. And also it can affect the ecosystem, different biodiversity on the earth surface, different kinds of animals, different kinds of wildlife animals living on the earth surface. And it can disturb the food chain. Because of the disturbance in the food chain, you can have the negative impacts on the wildlife animals. Okay, so how to manage the ozone depletion? So most of the countries around the world, they are working on the reduction of the chlorofluorocarbon, because the emission of the chlorofluorocarbon is the major responsible factor for the depletion of ozone. And we can manage the depletion in the ozone layer. We can manage the negative impacts of the chlorofluorocarbon on the ozone layer by reducing the emission of CFC, that is the chlorofluorocarbon. So in 1987, the Montreal Protocol was there was occurred, and they have agreement to reduce the effect of CFC. That can, they have the agreement to reduce the emission of CFC. And instead of CFC, they have the replacement, that is HFC and HCFC, and that is having shorter lifetime and less reactive, and it is having the less collection and reusable, and it is having the, but it is the expensive replacement. So these are the countries: US, Germany, Japan, France, China, India. They have an agreement, means they signed on an agreement in 1987 in the Montreal Protocol, that they will reduce the emission of CFC, but instead they can use the HFC, because HFC and HCFC are having the shorter lifetime in comparison to the CFCs. But this replacement is costly, it is expensive process to reduce the elimination of CFC, and replaced it with the HFC and the HCFC. But still, most of the countries are working on the reduction of the emission of CFC, so that there will be the less concentration of the CFCs, and it will not affect the ozone. So ozone layer will not be affected by the CFC, and there will be the no ozone depletion. Okay, the climate change, uh, having different components. When we talk about the climate change, so climate change having the climate swings, greenhouse gases, evidence, okay, predictions, and the control. So climate change means the swings in the climate, the change in the weather condition, and this is the process. This figure is showing how the climate change process occurs, and what are the different stages, what are the different phenomena that occurred in the atmosphere, and that can lead to the climate change. Okay, so these are some of the historic climate shift. Okay, because of this the historic climate shift, most you can see most of the time the rotation of the earth around the sun is affected by the shifting of the rotation of the earth. Okay, earth rotates around the sun, but still you see the earth also rotates on its axis. So because of the a very slight shift on the rotation of earth on its own axis can lead to the climate change, can lead to the change in the weather condition. Okay, so the shift in the earth's orbit and the tilt can also have impact on the climate of the on the earth's surface. Okay, some of the volcanic activities can also be responsible for the climate change. So these are some of the natural processes that are responsible for the climate change effects on the earth. Okay, so this is the way how you can see the El Nino effect can also El Nino effect can also be responsible for the global climate change. It's a trade winds keep warm winter in the Western Pacific. La Nina. El Nino is a shift in the tropical depression. There are northern jet stream splits the changes, that is rainfall patterns. It is having Pacific decadal oscillation. El Nino is a Pacific decadal oscillation, and it can be responsible for the warming of the water in the northern Pacific that moves back and the forth. The cool water in the north helps the Alaska salmon runs warm off the coast and the switches. Human activities are also responsible for the climate change. Burning fossil fuels having major contribution in the climate change, that is around 49%. Out of all the climate change activities, 49% is because of the burning fossil fuels, 13% is because of the agricultural activities, burning of the agricultural residues. Deforestation is having 14% contribution in the global climate change, and different industrial processes, the gases released from the industries, different greenhouse gases released from the factories and companies can also lead to the change in the climate, that is climate changes. These are some of the factors of, you can say, these are the anthropogenic factors or anthropogenic activities responsible for the global climate change, that is you can say industrialization and the burning of fossil fuels is having major role in the global climate change due to the human activities. Okay. These are some of the evidences of the climate change. The average global temperature has increased up to zero point 0.6 degrees Celsius over the last century, and the sea surface, or you can say the sea ice over the Arctic region, is reduced up to 40%, and Antarctic glaciers are retreating at a rate of 50 meter per year. Alpine glaciers are also retreating. There is a higher concentration of acids, or acidification process of the oceans are increased. There is a rise in the sea level, and because of the climate change, the human behavior or animal behaviors are changing, the breeding cycles are changing, and because of the global climate change, there are frequent occurrence of the storm, floods, and droughts over the different part of the earth. Okay, so these are the table. The table is showing the proportion of global warming caused by different kinds of greenhouse gases. So most of the most proportion is from the carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is having the major role in the global warming because it is one of the most widely released greenhouse gases. Okay, then after carbon dioxide, methane is having 19% contribution in the global warming. Then chlorofluorocarbons are having 11% contribution, nitrous oxide 6%, sulfur hexafluoride is having 0.4%. So major contribution or major factors in the global warming is because of the carbon dioxide gas, that is CO2. Okay, so you see the effect of global climate change on the sea ice. Okay, that is the photograph over a Larsen B ice shelf over the Antarctica region. Okay, so you see there is a change in the sea ice surface because of the global climate change. Then there are also having negative impacts on the animal life over the Antarctica. Okay, penguins are having negatively impacted by the global climate change. Okay, these are the consequences over the Arctic sea ice and alpine glaciers. So, because of the melting of ice, because of the melting of glaciers, the the animal life in that region is strongly affected by the global climate changes. Okay, so these are some of the predictions that in near future the overall global temperature will rise up to a up to a level that will be very harmful for the human life as well as different coastal regions because of the sea level rise. Most of the coastal regions will have the problem in case of high tides and other activities. So it is very important to note that the rise in the global temperature is having negative impacts on different factors, different components on the Earth's surface. So we can control it by reducing the release of carbon dioxide. We can also control the emission of chlorofluorocarbons. We can reduce the effect of different greenhouse gases. We can reduce the emission of different greenhouse gases to control the vehicles, to control the use of refrigerators, to control the use of ACs on the Earth surface. So reduction of carbon emission is very important. So we can reduce the carbon emission because of the uh, due to the less use of the fossil fuels. We can reduce the use of fossil fuels. We can plant more trees so it can absorb the carbon dioxide and can release the oxygen. Okay, we can work on the insulation of houses. We can replace the old appliances and we can use the compact fluorescent light bulbs, and we should focus on the use of renewable energies. So these are some of the steps, these are some of the activities what we can do, what we should do on the to reduce the carbon emission. Burning of the fossil fuels, we should reduce the burning of fossil fuels. We should plant more trees. We should insulate the houses. We should replace the old appliances. We should use the fluorescent light bulbs and also focus on the use of renewable energies. So this is the way how we can reduce the carbon emission, and by reducing the carbon emission, we can we can control the global climate change. We can reduce the negative impacts of global climate change on the Earth's surface, on the human life as well as different wildlife animals. So thank you very much for today's class, and in the next class we will discuss more about the climate change effect on the different ecosystem services, different components of the ecosystem, biodiversity on the earth surface. So thank you very much for today's class, and